Have a great morning, everyone. Welcome once again to Biological Philosophy, and our subtopic is Biological Teleology. Once again, this is the Academia Gonzaga Learning Systems, and you are now listening to an online lecture. Well, let us first define what is teleology. Remember, we are tackling biological teleology. So, teleology is a reason or an explanation for something which serves as a function or its end, its purpose or its goal, as opposed to something which serves as a function of its cause. Okay, so an example for this is ladies are born to only be impregnated and bear children. No other reasons are there. So when a lady, baby, or when a baby girl will be given birth, automatically the expectation is for this lady to become a baby maker or a person that will be impregnated to produce a baby. That is teleology. And because of teleology, some organisms cannot anymore exercise change, exercise adaptation, or exercise change in mechanisms. Now, etymologically, the word teleology came from the Greek word telos, meaning end or purpose, and another Greek word loheia, meaning study of. So this can be joined or coined together to mean study of its end or study of its purpose. Now, we will be focusing much on the effect of teleology in biology. So, brace up and let us learn the facts. So, how does teleology affect biology? Well, teleology will always impose that biological beings existed not because they are to make their own destinations or plans, but rather because they have a purpose and that will never be diverted, but rather it will be surely applied. Now, take for instance, a caterpillar is born to really become a butterfly. So there are no other things in life that a caterpillar can do, like pollinating plants, or shall we say, providing added nutrition for other animals, if we will focus relentlessly only on teleology. However, teleology can be wrong because caterpillar can sometimes be food for the higher order animals, and sometimes that is their purpose of living because they are there as a food chain member of the ecosystem of which one higher animal can feed on them in order to exist. They are not only destined to become butterflies, they are also there to become diet choices for other higher order organisms. Now, to continue, let us take for instance this bacterial population. Okay, this is a very good discussion here. In teleology, even before they existed, bacteria will already have the finality of function, and that is to cause sickness to humans and even cause human death if the bacterial presence is overwhelming. These teleological views seem to be very correct as many humans today really died because of bacterial infections. To name a few, we have death from tuberculosis, death from anthrax, and other relative diseases. Well, tuberculosis, the causative agent is tuberculi, what do you call this? Tubercle bacilli. And then for anthrax, you have Bacillus anthracis. However, this teleological viewpoint may have difficulty to explain how nitrogen-fixing bacteria can help human beings in their digestion, and in like manner, biological teleology may also have conflicts of explanation in the context that when a baby is born, one of the injections that is being required is the vitamin K. Okay, if you notice, when the baby will be on the right age after birth, there will be two injections. Usually, the right leg or the right vastus lateralis, that muscle in the leg, will have Hepa B, and the left will have vitamin K. Vitamin K, which induces bacterial activity in the system of the newborn, Without vitamin K, if it will not be resolved, okay? Again, without vitamin K, there will be bleeding to death. That is the obvious reason. However, without vitamin K also, there will be failure of digestion, which may cause death to the newborn if it will not be resolved. Now, the teleological point here, dear learners, is bacteria will cause always human death, but realistically, there are some bacterial strains that when it will not be present in our digestive system, we may also die. Remember, bacteria help in the digestion of milk and other lactose products. Without bacteria, we will die of lactose intolerance and maybe lactose poisoning. This is the teleological conflict that biological teleologists can never resolve until the moment, because teleologically, bacteria is only a cause of death for humans. So how will you resolve that? Recent studies really show that without good bacteria or nitrogen-fixing bacteria, humans will also die. So teleology in this point can be proven as insufficient. Biology as a study of life is in itself a freedom that may end up very much affected by the cause and effect structures of life. That's very obvious. A good example here is everyone was given life because some will abuse their health, some as they smoke, drink, and even do drugs. So there is a tendency that their life expectancy will be shorter and more problematic health-wise. On the contrary, people who do effort in protecting their health will always have greater tendency of living longer, even beyond the average human life or human lifespan, and will have fewer tendencies of health problem along the way. So in teleology, okay, the context is if it seemed that it will impose on humans that man will really have life to a point that they are destined to live, and when it is their time, it is their time and we cannot do something against it. That is very teleological in its most obvious sense, but this is not a correct observation also. So you can hear always people say, I will just abuse my health because if it's your time, it's your time. The belief that life is given to humans without condition is in itself a teleological belief, because our claim as people who really learn about realistic health is that health can be prolonged if we live a healthy life, but health can be shorter if we will live a very unhealthy life. However, if we just believe that man will always have life and its destiny will always depend on the exactness of what God has given, then that is predestination or predetermination, which is a characteristic of teleology. Another biological teleology is being imposed by evolutionists in the theory of gradualism. This theory is destined to reach a certain point of general completion. Completion here is the teleological point. And what do you think is the point of completion? That is when the gradual change occurs and the greatest goal is for such organisms to reach the human form. Wow, so this is now evolution by understanding. Thus, if monkeys or apes are part of this teleological perception, then the question is, why is it today that we still have monkeys and apes around us? Why is it taking very long for the gradual change to happen that until now teleology of not seeing these organisms not yet reaching the human phase is so obvious? If evolution is correct, we should not see any monkeys or apes now, wherever and whenever. This is the greatest viewpoint of biological teleology, a point that will always be easier for creation believers to contain, because unless we will stop seeing monkeys and apes, then the teleology that humans is the last point of gradual evolution will always become a teleological inefficiency. Now, continuing, it is also wrong in the imposition of teleology that biological existence and migration can cause other position final results in the process and existence and hibernation. A good example here is the biological effects of medications to human beings. Well, this is a good point that we need to discuss. For example, Benadryl as a drug in teleological reasoning is only used for allergic reactions. And after that, using these drugs beyond allergic manifestations is already as good as doing harm, or that is non-maleficence, to humans as biological players. Well, this seemed to be theoretically right, but realistically wrong. For in the present times, Benadryl is not only used clinically and purposively for allergic reactions, but also for people who have difficulty in sleeping. Today, doctors will even prescribe Benadryl to promote better capability of sleeping. Now, if we will direct our reason to teleology, the doctor here can lose his license, for he is doing harm to the patient because he did not administer Benadryl as an anti-allergy as its primary indication, but rather for something else, even if it is medically proven or scientifically tested already. Now, if you noticed, teleological reasoning often handcuff biological discoveries and multivariant explorations and successes. My take on this is very simple. If other inventions can have other beneficial effect, why not explore on it? Why limit what can be extended, and why stop things that can be good to humanity? Instead of taking up dosage of tranquilizers which can be detrimental to our nephrologic or kidney system, why not take up Benadryl, a medication with lower dose but with possible effectiveness in promoting tranquilizing effect? This is what is destroying teleology in biological medicine. Today, as students and learners of science, let us not impose predetermination and predestination. Well, to the tests, experiments, observations, and other laboratory explorations, for it will curtail honest results, the dignified reality, and even truthfulness of science. Let us just permit science to exist on its own and for biology to continue flourishing without limits and without teleological boundaries that will only make science more ignorant and less universal. If we want to dictate on science, why are we still studying science? Why not lay out a blueprint for science to follow us, which is the world's greatest ignorant decision? And where is teleology a good ally of it? Let science be explored so that other things which science can provide will be beneficial to humanity. That is against teleology, but that is reality. Biological teleology dwells on a higher possibility prediction. This has basis for probability. However, probability itself is a possible truth and not really an exact truth, for it still have not happened, yet it's a higher tendency of happening due to averages. Biology is life, and life will always have multiple variations which may be affected by environmental changes, populations, and other things that may improve or regress it. What are we trying to say? Life can have diversified direction. So if we will look at life in a teleological manner and predict its ending, then we are trying to say that things that will not go to that ending that is predicted teleologically will be abnormal and will be contradicting science and should not be believed upon. That is destroying the equilibrium, or shall we say, the balance of learning science, or the check-in balance of the scientific field. Well, to conclude our learning, let us cover some issues about teleology in biology. Biological regeneration and crossbreeding will always happen as part of the environmental exercise of all the species that are existing within it. Thus, teleology will become a limitation that will surely be ignorant in its position, making it very illogical viewpoint in the study of natural biology and even biological ecosystems. Well, crossbreeding, and environmental adaptation is always part of biology. So if we predict something and predict only race per race, okay, or family per family, then we are limiting biological regeneration, which is curtailing an exploration of realistic and truthful science. Okay, another issue of teleology: biological existence is a great evidence of God's unpredictability. These variations in biological context in itself is a proclamation of God's greatness and unexplainable reasons beyond the miracles of life. Theological patterns applied which may impose goal-seeking and finality doctrines will contradict the principle that God imposes upon nature, which includes biological diversity. Meaning, God can always provide different endings to human experience. But if humans will only allow the thinking that this was experienced in the past, therefore this will happen in the future, we are actually curtailing the foreknowledge of God, and we are actually curtailing the probability of life's diversity. Science is a diversified field. We don't need to apply walls into it. Knowing everything in nature will destroy the biological quest for greater knowledge and deeper augmentation of the learning regarding life. That is why teleology will never help in biological improvements and even explorations and discoveries that will lead to greater appreciation and realities in the study of life, of which humans are greatly a part of it. Now, here is one very controversial example, but at least we will try to cover this one. Marijuana can really destroy life. And teleologically, Philippines is still believing that whatever studies are there, marijuana will just destroy life. But other countries explored biology already and has found out that marijuana can be a very good drug for oncology. Marijuana can be a very good drug for bacterial or higher bacterial infections. That is what you call exploration in science, which leads to higher knowledge. I'm not an advocate of marijuana use. What I'm trying to say is, teleology will give us a false belief of correctness and will also give us an imbalanced view of negativity in things that we study in science. The Bible is also very clear that there are things in this life that may not be explained and we also can never fathom. That is why we should endeavor to be faithful so that when Jesus will come back to take us home, we will go there, for there will be a biological gathering and all the questions that we ask regarding biology that we cannot answer, that we cannot predict, we can ask directly from the master biologist, the master philosopher himself, Jesus Christ. Remember, if we can explain science word for word, there is no more need to study science more. And what we're trying to say here is, if one person thinks that he already knows everything, he has just died a philosophical death. And we do not want that to happen to us. Because even God said, occupy till I come. If we translate that to education, that is, learn till He comes. Or learn till you, learn while you are still breathing. Lastly, biological teleology will always be a great challenge to the philosophy of biology, especially to people who only accept facts and knowledge without questioning it. Someday that will be a cause of misconception. Biology is a growing knowledge. Science is a growing knowledge. If we try to put walls, we do not know what are the things that we are stopping from entering the field of education, the field of learning. Is it good knowledge? Is it true knowledge? Is it bad knowledge? Is it negative knowledge? So when we stop variation, when we stop diversity, when we stop changes in the field of science, because teleologically we only believe what are the ends that are there because that happened in the past, then we are trying to delay the progress of science and we are trying to stop the discoveries of God's great miracles in the field of science, specifically in the field of biology. Dear learners, this is still Mentor Noy Gonzaga of Academia Gonzaga Learning System. This is still your online lecture on biological philosophy. And at this moment, we have just resolved a very hard topic in the philosophy of biology, which is biological teleology. I hope and pray that you will continue to tune in to us every time we will have new learnings in the Academia Gonzaga learning system. God bless everyone.